Welcome to DreamFolk. You've arrived at a quiet place where stories drift like leaves and time slows down. Let this moment be just for you. Before we begin, take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Relax your muscles. Let the day melt away. Let your thoughts settle like snow. Now, gently close your eyes or let them rest on the screen. Our story is about to begin.
The night was quiet, and the air in Aira's room felt thick with sleep. A single candle flickered beside her, casting long, slow-moving shadows across the wooden floor. The rain had just begun, soft at first, barely brushing the window glass. Aira was curled beside her desk, wrapped in a faded blanket, sketchbook in her lap. The pages were full of half-finished drawings, clouds shaped like whales, forests floating in the sky, stars tangled in trees. But tonight, she wasn't drawing. Tonight, her eyes were fixed on a small porcelain teacup, old, delicate, with blue flowers painted around the rim. It once belonged to her grandmother. Something about it always felt different, special. She reached out, fingers tracing its smooth surface. A drop of tea swirled lazily at the bottom, catching the candlelight. She blinked slowly, leaning closer. The world began to quiet around her. The candle, the rain, even her own breath. As Aira stared into the cup, the swirling drop of tea seemed to grow. At first, it was just a shimmer, like heat rising off pavement. But then, the colors deepened, like ink bleeding through water. Blues and golds twisted together in hypnotic patterns. Her head felt light, as if something inside her had just let go. Then, stillness. For a moment, the room disappeared. Her chair, her blanket, the flickering candle, all faded into softness. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer in her room. She was standing. The ground beneath her was smooth and cool, painted in familiar floral swirls. It was porcelain, the inside of the cup, only now it was large enough to hold a world. Mist drifted through the air, like steam from a fresh brew. And in the distance, small homes began to emerge from the fog, delicate, curved, and glowing faintly, like lanterns in the dusk. The sky above Aira wasn't a sky at all. It was the inner curve of the teacup, arcing endlessly upward. Tiny droplets of water clung to its surface like distant stars. The air smelled faintly of honey and warm leaves. The path before her was cobbled with pale ceramic tiles that shimmered with painted flowers. She took a step, and the sound echoed soft, like walking through memory. Around her, houses leaned close together, their roofs gently sloped, their windows glowing amber. Lanterns hung from string lines across narrow streets, swaying gently as though moved by a breeze that couldn't be felt. A tiny bakery shaped like a sugar cube released a curl of steam that smelled of cinnamon and cloves. There was no rush here, no urgency, no time ticking away, just gentle movement, like a lullaby made of color and scent. Aira smiled without realizing it. This place, wherever it was, felt like it had always been waiting for her. The town was not empty. As Aira wandered further, she began to see them, the townsfolk. They were no taller than her waist, some made of porcelain, others shaped from velvet or stitched from cloth. Their faces were soft and kind, with gentle eyes and quiet smiles. A tiny man in a thimble-shaped hat nodded politely as he passed, carrying a bag of dried petals. A pair of older women, one made of lace, the other of sugar glass, sat outside a cafe, sipping from tiny cups and watching the clouds drift lazily overhead. No one rushed, no one spoke loudly. Even the birds, little ceramic swallows perched on rooftop ledges, chirped only in whispers. Aira felt no fear, no need to explain herself. She was simply part of it, a guest in a dream that welcomed her like an old friend. Somewhere, a soft bell chimed. She followed the sound, heart calm, steps light as steam rising from tea. As Aira wandered toward the edge of town, she came upon a narrow stream that curled its way between the porcelain streets. It shimmered like golden silk, moving slowly, with tiny ripples catching the lantern light above. It wasn't water, it was tea, warm and fragrant, drifting with petals of jasmine and lavender. Along the bank sat a boy in a paper hat, gently guiding a silver teaspoon like a boat. The current was so soft it barely moved, and yet the spoon glided smoothly, its reflection painting ripples on the curved wall of the cup. The boy waved silently to Aira, and she waved back, unsure why her eyes stung a little. There was something sacred in the quiet here, something that made your heart slow down. Every movement in this town was like part of a breath. Rise, pause, exhale, and the tea flowed on, carrying not just warmth, but time itself. Past a row of spiral houses, Aira found a building shaped like a teapot, turned on its side. Vines of painted ivy wrapped around it, blooming with ceramic blossoms. A tiny sign read, "Library of Forgotten Mornings." Inside, the air was cool and still. The shelves were carved from spoon handles and stacked with scrolls that unrolled themselves as you touched them. Each scroll whispered a story from a morning someone had forgotten. The way sunlight looked on their 6th birthday, the smell of fresh bread on a snowy day, the sound of a mother humming while tying shoelaces. Aira stood among the scrolls, listening. They didn't speak loudly, but the echoes curled around her like a song remembered in a dream. She didn't take anything. She only listened. And when she stepped back outside, the world felt a little softer, as if it had remembered her too. Just beyond the library, the street opened into a small square, where stalls had been set up under swaying paper lanterns. They floated not by string, but by some quiet magic, bobbing gently above the vendors. One stall sold tiny umbrellas carved from rose petals. Another offered music in glass marbles. You'd shake them, and a song would play, soft as snowfall. Aira stopped at a table where dreams were folded into origami animals, sleeping foxes, slow-flying owls, curled-up kittens. A porcelain woman with stardust freckles smiled and handed her a folded moth. "It knows where you need to go," she said. The moth unfolded slowly in Aira's palm, glowing faintly, and lifted into the air. She followed. The crowd murmured softly around her, but no words were needed, just the hush of dreams passing from hand to hand. The moth led Aira down a narrow path lined with candlelit windows. At the very end was a shop tucked between two painted chimneys, with a sign that simply read, "Dreams." Inside, it smelled of old books and clean linen. The shopkeeper wore a dress that shimmered like sunlight on a puddle, and her smile was quieter than silence. "You may take one," she said gently, gesturing to the shelves. The shelves were lined with hundreds of tiny bottles, some glowing, some humming, others flickering like fireflies. One pulsed with a soft green light, and Aira felt it call to her. Inside was a miniature garden with lantern plants, a silver bench, and a tiny stream that ran in circles. She held it close. It was calm. It was quiet. It felt like a memory of peace, not from her past, but maybe from her future. Aira climbed a gentle hill just beyond the town square. The ground beneath her feet was smooth, patterned with painted grass and tiny flowers. On top of the hill stood porcelain trees, their trunks curled like teacup handles, their leaves shaped like translucent bells. The wind passed through them and they rang. Not loud, not harsh, but with the sound of distant laughter, like someone remembering something lovely. She sat beneath the largest tree and let the sound wash over her. Every leaf was a note in a song she didn't know she knew. She closed her eyes, and the green glow from the dream bottle pulsed softly beside her. For a long moment, she let herself feel everything: the quiet joy, the stillness, the way this place held space for her, just as she was. In the heart of town stood a tower shaped like a sleeping cat, curled with its tail wrapped around its paws. Its fur was made of painted brushstrokes, and every hour the tip of its tail would chime a soft bell. Aira climbed the winding staircase inside, her footsteps silent on the velvet steps. At the top, she looked out over the whole town, rooftops like seashells, windows glowing like fireflies, steam drifting through the air in lazy spirals. From up here, it was clear. The town was shaped like a spiral, gently circling the center of the cup. Time didn't move forward here. It moved inward, deeper, softer. She leaned against the railing and let her thoughts dissolve like sugar in tea. Aira followed a narrow stone path to the very edge of the teacup where porcelain met sky. There, hidden beneath the rim, was a secret garden, the same one from the bottle. She recognized it instantly. The soft lantern glow, the curved bench, the sleeping tree at its center. Except now, she was inside it. She sat on the bench and looked up. Above her, the world curved endlessly, not up, but around. She realized she wasn't outside the dream or even inside it. She was part of it. Woven in like thread in a tapestry, the tree above her dropped a single glowing leaf, and it landed in her lap without a sound. As the sky above her darkened into lavender dusk, a soft humming began. It wasn't coming from one place, but from everywhere at once. Windows, rooftops, trees. It was a lullaby, but it had no words, no melody she could repeat. It was the sound of sleep arriving gently. Aira leaned back on the bench and let the music sink into her bones. She imagined the porcelain townsfolk closing their tiny shutters, the steam curling slower, the Spoon River dimming into stillness. Everything slowed. Even her breath, even her thoughts. Her eyes began to close. The glow of the bottle faded to a heartbeat's rhythm, soft, slow, safe. The sound of rain returned first, soft, steady, familiar. Aira blinked her eyes open to find herself once more in her candlelit room. The candle was low now, nearly out. The teacup sat where it had always been, its surface still. No swirling light, no mist, just the quiet clink of a drop falling. She looked down at her lap. Her sketchbook was open, and there, drawn in fine lines and soft color, was the town. Every curved house, every porcelain tree, the clock tower cat, and the garden beneath the rim. She hadn't picked up her pencil, or had she? The longer she looked, the more she noticed the green bottle was there, drawn carefully on a shelf. The boy in the spoon, the moth folded midair. And as her eyes adjusted, something else, a faint shimmer. The drawing glowed, only slightly, but enough, like it was breathing. She touched the paper gently, and for just a second, she felt warmth. Not hot, just familiar, like returning home from a journey and remembering something you hadn't realized you'd forgotten. Rain tapped gently on the window pane, and Aira leaned her head against the glass. Outside, the world was still dark, still quiet, but she no longer felt alone. Behind her, the candle flickered its last breath and went out. She closed the sketchbook slowly and set it beside the teacup. Her blanket felt warmer now, Her eyes were heavy. As she curled back into her chair, she whispered one word, "Thank you." And somewhere far away, maybe in the heart of the cup, a tiny chime rang once, like a cat's tail brushing gently against porcelain. Then silence.
Thank you for listening. Wherever you are tonight, may your thoughts be light and your rest be deep. Until next time, sleep well, and don't forget to subscribe